Well, thank you so much for having me at the event today, and thanks for being here. So for those that haven't seen you around before, could you introduce yourself and maybe a little bit about Zendesk as a company itself?
Sure, yeah. I'm Emma Acton. I look after the marketing in our Europe, Middle East and Africa region. And Zendesk is the world's leading AI platform for customer experience.
How do you see marketing priorities kind of evolving, particularly when it comes to balancing demand with long-term brand building?
Yeah, and I think historically we've looked at marketing, we kind of we put dollars in and we get MQLs, marketing qualified leads out. Yeah. But I think it's incredibly important that you actually start from the brand itself and you are driving that demand through kind of a brand-led motion first, so that people understand who you are as an organisation, what you stand for, and so that you're aligned with what challenges they're looking to solve, what they're actually looking for.
Yeah.
So it's important to set that up, and then you can follow with the campaigns, because your performance marketing tactics are kind of bomb unless you've got that upfront brand recognition and knowledge. Because otherwise people just aren't going to click through because they don't know who you are or what you're offering.
Yeah. There's definitely a good place to start. So account-based marketing as well has become a massive and key strategy that people keep talking about, keep hearing that coming up. So how are you kind of approaching that at Zendesk?
And I think it's been a buzzword for a long time. I've done ABM for, well over a decade now, but I think it's evolved. So initially it was a buzzword and everyone's like, well, we're doing account-based marketing, and they're inviting a set of target accounts to an activity. It isn't about that. You've got to look at your customers and prospects. You've got to break down the types of accounts and then the approach that you give them. So you might do some one-to-one, which is a bit more of a white-gloved approach for your sort of larger strategic accounts.
Right.
And the activities align to that much more sort of personalised approach. You might have clusters of accounts that are, from the same industry or the same use case, and so that's kind of your one-to-few campaigns, and you've got messaging that is appropriate to that. And then I think it's also important to have your kind of always-on evergreen, but still targeting your universe, your sets of accounts, right? And that's your typical always-on activities that are helping to drive. I tier it like that: one-to-one, the one-to-few, and then the one-to-many.
And I can imagine that's just getting more and more complex as we start to introduce AI and all of those things into it. With those increasingly complex martech stacks and all of those things, what are kind of maybe the biggest challenges that you're seeing people facing at the moment?
Yeah, I think with the proliferation of martech, I remember, I've been in the industry a while, and just back looking at the martech stack diagrams back in the day, they were quite simple. Now they are just off the charts. Literally, it wouldn't fit onto a PDF or onto a screen. There are so many different pieces of technology that we as marketeers are able to tap into. I think really understanding and getting insight into your data and making data-driven decisions. And I think that's about, you can have all the tools in the world in your martech stack, but if they're not talking to each other, your data's not unified, you're not able to then tell the story or understand that picture from the data. So you've got to have the tech integrated, got to be able for these systems to be talking to each other, and then also understand what that data is telling you, because there's just a huge amount of it, but you've got to be able to make those data-driven decisions, and having the tech stack connected is incredibly important.
Yeah, and how does that sort of start to look when you're trying to build a brand globally, but also then looking specifically more into EMEA? How do you kind of find that balance there?
And you hit on a point. EMEA is unique, right? We've got an awful lot of countries, cultures, nuances, languages, and so we have to think about how we balance the global brand and approach with campaigns, with our messaging, but then how we localize appropriate to each individual market, country, and the maturity. Some countries are more mature than others. The buying groups, the companies, there is different levels of maturity that we've got to work into our tactics and our activities. So it is taking that bigger picture and then amplifying it but appropriate to each of the regions that we're operating in.
Yeah.
It is complicated. It's quite fun though.
Yeah.
But it is definitely complicated, and it's a balancing act.
Yeah, definitely a lot to think about. And how do kind of, partners and alliances start to play a part in that? Because I can imagine it does play a massive role.
It does indeed. They are absolutely critical and key to our success. We can't build our pipeline. We can't amplify our message in our markets without them. We're very, very heavily reliant. So we've got to make sure that they're part of our ecosystem. They're acting as Zendesk out there in the market and on our behalf. Yeah. So we've got to make sure they're enabled. We've got to make sure they have all the tools and different elements that we would use ourselves to go and tell our story and to attract demand. We've got to make sure that they're enabled with that as well, and amplifying the Zendesk message on our behalf. So making sure we've got the partner programs, that they've got the tools they need as well to interact with us. The whole lead tracking and understanding what the activities are driving in terms of demand and then results. Yeah. So it's an incredibly important ecosystem for us.
Yeah, and I know we very briefly kind of touched on AI and automation, those things, but I would love to dive deeper into what do you kind of see coming up in maybe the next couple of years with AI and automation when it comes to markets? I know it's almost impossible to say what's going to happen and what's going to change, but maybe, what do you see coming up?
I think you've got to look and say, what are we looking to achieve? What are the things that AI can take off our plate?
Yeah.
Right, that we can automate using AI, so that we as the human marketeers can go put our time onto more valuable activities. And so what are the tools that we need? What are the things, if you look at all the activities we might do through every day, from the demand through to the conversion, through to our tracking, through to the web, you name it. What are those pieces that we can automate, that we can use AI on? Yeah. And then where do we apply, where would we get the most value from the human marketeers? And I think in regional marketing, in our area, we spoke about the complexity of the market. And so going and having conversations with customers and prospects face to face. Our physical events are so well attended. We almost have to operate a kind of wait list because people want to come and have a conversation, particularly in the CX and the customer experience space. And so making sure we can automate some of the more menial pieces of marketing, and then put those humans into driving that kind of face-to-face, that human-to-human interaction through events, activities, those sort of things that we know our customers and prospects really like to come and speak to us at. Yeah,
and you've led really nicely into my next question, which would be to do with events. You've got everything going on online. You've got a million things to think about. How do you even start to prioritize and figure out where you're going to invest your money into and all those things? How do you even begin that thought process?
Yeah, and I think some of that goes back to that data, right? The analysis of the data from an attribution perspective. It isn't a first touch or a last touch attribution model that works. You've got to look at kind of a whole account based kind of model, where, because you could have 10, 15, even 20 different buyers within, or personas that you're selling to within an account. They might be in a different business unit or buying center. They might be at HQ. They might be out at a regional office. Different industries. So you've got to be able to understand from an attribution perspective all your tactics, what's resonating where. And so it isn't a one and done. Well, we do that event, that's great, it delivers this. Yeah. Actually, what are all the different landscape of tactics that we do that then deliver the outcomes? Yeah. And so having visibility into that is incredibly important in the data, so that we can see typically a journey. Well, they came in and they did a trial, then they came to an event and they had a really in-depth demo and conversation with our team there. Then they met with a couple of our executives, then they did this, and then 4 more people from the event went to an AI workshop. And so having that map, that account map, to see all the touch points and how that moved our conversation and relationship with that customer forward is incredibly important.
Yeah, kind of following that storyline of them.
Sure.
I guess my final question would be more of like a personal one, I guess. What are you kind of most looking forward to as Zendesk, and what you've got coming up, I guess, in the near future?
Yeah, so we're heading into a really, really busy season. We've got a big kind of roadshow of events in EMEA. It's always a highlight for me, running those, and the team do a phenomenal job. I think understanding, again, we touched on it earlier, around how AI can really help us.
Yeah.
What is it that we can do? We've just deployed a tool, and it's making our lives so much easier because it's tracking everything that we do activity-wise. It connects to a lot of our other systems. It's giving us great visibility and insight, great AI tool. We can iterate and change it literally in 10 minutes. Go, for non-technical people, we can go in and the user experience is phenomenal to add new functionality really, really quickly.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to use more tools like that again are giving me those insights, are allowing me to free up resources for that human-to-human piece, and where I can then automate the sort of more menial tasks that take time, but that AI can do for me. So I think the roadshows, and then how we're going to really evolve with AI and how it can help us.
Brilliant. That's one thing I've taken away from today and this event in general, is everyone's so passionate about what they're doing. Everyone cares so much, and it's just lovely to see. I feel like I could sit here and talk to you about this for ages, but I won't take up any more of your time. So thank you so much.
No, thank you very much for having me. Really great. Thank you.